Hey buddy over here. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Well, the answer is yes, cause this show sucks. Oh, excuse me, where are my manners? I'm DJ the Dojin Rock'n'Roller, and welcome to my Gacha Life channel. Yeah, you thought I was joking at the end of my last vid, didn't ya? You know, in that one frame at the end that you can't even pause to read because the YouTube player would just end the video at that point. But see what happens when you watch my videos till the end? You get an extra joke, just for you. Anyway, today we're going through the anime chart of this upcoming fall season where I've looked into all the source materials and trailers I could so I could give my preemptive thoughts and predictions. But before then, just gotta check off that R18 setting cause we don't want to miss anything good, and leave kids off cause we don't diddle with that shit.
We do not diddle kids!
As mentioned before, Danmachi 3rd season. It's gonna suck. It's a generic empowerment fantasy light novel adaptation. I didn't even know there was a second season of this shit. All I knew about was the feature film and the spin-off focusing on white bread kudere over here, who fails to properly cover up that one tit. Now I don't blame you if you like this absolute shit show. Believe it or not, I too was in your position. When the first season was airing, I was in high school. I was confused. My taste was trash. But I have seen the light. And you too can see the light, my child. Just come to me. Yes, come closer. Closer, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Haikyuu, to the top, 2nd season. Not to be confused with Haikyuu, 2nd season. Cause this upcoming season is the 5th season of the Haikyuu series. A series I don't follow. Oh, shut up. We all know you people like the show only because you like seeing teenage boys bouncing each other's balls around.
Oh, you stink!
Hey, fuck you too, man. Well, look who's back with a vengeance. The OG anime Hogwarts has come back to take its original place on the throne. So move aside, misfit at Demon Academy. You gonna be hailing to the king, boy, cause we talking about the original gangster. The harem master. Finger blaster. Woo! Plot disaster. The sister fucker. Tomboy fucker. Student council press fucker. Can you dig it, sucker? Mr. Herr Kaiser, the Irregular at Magic High School. Yeah, this show sucks. To make this clear, I haven't watched the show, but I've read the first volume of the light novel, and that's all I needed to see, cause we all know that all light novels are virtually the same. But an interesting point to note is that Irregular is one of the series that popularized all those tropes that we've all come to know and hate. So credit where credit is due, Irregular at Magic High School is the original cancer of Magic High School. No one liked it then, no one will like it now. Jujutsu Kaisen, oof. Yeah, I had a hard time getting into the manga of this one. I remember in 2018 I tried to read the one-shot, but it was just not interesting. It's too long and slow for what it is, and it doesn't do anything special to make me want to continue reading. Even rereading this now, very little happens in the first volume. It doesn't have any focused goal, none of the characters stand out, and they're all ill-defined and uninteresting. The only thing to note is the supernatural visual style. The monster designs are all so grotesque and beautiful, you know, my kind of shit. And from what I've seen in the trailer, it looks like MAPPA's really going to accentuate this aesthetic. Hopefully they rework the pacing of this show because it honestly looks like it can make for a good action animation. A Higurashi remake, eh? You know, I've never actually watched this show, but I remember seeing clips as a kid on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know why, but my first exposure to the show was a YouTube video where the audio from the show was synced to video from Transformers Animated. Yeah, I think it was Shion's dialogue synced to Blitzwing for some reason. As for the show itself, since it's a visual novel adaptation / remake, this might go the Bladesworks way and adapt an alternate route from the game that differs from the 2006 series. But again, I know little about this series aside from my cursed childhood, so only time will tell. Also, I couldn't find the Blitzwing video mentioned earlier, but I did find this Transformers Animated AMV using the Higurashi theme. Yeah, 2009 was weird. Tonikaku Kawaii. It's really boring. It's a drawn-out slice-of-life romance between mysterious kudere and horny virgin that currently has 10 volumes at over 100 chapters. There really is no character development since our two leads get married in the first 2 chapters despite knowing squat about each other, and the rest of the volume is boring slice of life. I mean, we see some hand-holding from the get-go since this mangaka is a horny motherfucker, but I can't imagine this story going over 100 chapters. Wait a minute. Actually, I can, since this mangaka's other noticeable work, Hayate the Combat Butler, lasted 52 volumes. That's over 500 chapters of unfunny, uneventful, slice-of-nothing-happens romance. Not an open-ended action-adventure, not a dark fantasy epic, not even an over-glorified sports story. We're talking about the literal abyss of slice of life. If you stare at this series, it will stare back, and before you know it, you wasted 12 years of your life. If this is what Tonikaku was bound to become, then good God, have mercy on these poor otaku. Noblesse. Noblesse. Nobles? Oh, noblesse. Of course. So this is based on a webtoon, very much like God of High School, except this webtoon was not good. I read the first 20 chapters of this comic and the first 20 episodes, but yeah, nothing happened. These first 20 chapters could easily be condensed into a 20-minute TV pilot, and I get that these chapters are short and they make up a small percentage of the series, but it's still expected that a series captivates its reader within its first few chapters, not its first 50. The series attempts a vague, mysterious premise to draw out intrigue, but there is absolutely nothing to hook the reader with. Nothing is explained, we have no clue of what these characters' goals are, and our protagonist is plucked straight from an otome game. That is to say, the only good thing about him is his looks. Hopefully the show gets reworked similar to God of High School, cause if they stay faithful to the webtoon's pacing, then the show is gonna have a hard time. Kamisama ni natahi, the latest production from Key, the creators of Angel Beats and Charlotte. Directed by Yoshiyuki Asai, director of Charlotte. Character designs by Naga from Key, and written by Key co-founder Jun Maeda. So immediately I can tell what sort of series this is gonna be. A slice-of-life drama with a focus on romance. Is it gonna be emotional? Probably. Is it gonna have pleasant music? Yeah, Jun Maeda. But is it going to be well written? Well, my main problem with Key's storytelling is that they tend to prioritize emotional impact over plot, and this results in pretty bad pacing for their series. For example, in Charlotte, the first half consists of slice-of-life filler until the latter half inexplicably tries to implement a more emotionally driven plot out of nowhere. Slice of life can be used to develop characters, but in the example of Charlotte, they failed to do so. There was too much dicking around that by the time I watched the final episode, I just did not give a fuck. Now sometimes this kind of story works. Sometimes viewers want to see emotion over plot. I mean, look at Your Name. But as for me, there's always going to be a cynicism in these types of stories. But as long as this show can get the feels flowing, then I think it will grow in popularity. Golden Kamui, 3rd season. So I just started the manga of this and I gotta say that I like what I see. It's got the problem in manga where it has too much informative exposition on digressive topics. You know, the kind of exposition popular in food manga and JoJo. But I've grown desensitized to the point where it doesn't really bother me anymore. And for the most part, the exposition in Golden Kamui stays relevant to the plot. I know the show doesn't have good animation. I mean, the CG looks straight pulled out of Lawnmower Man. But from what I've read so far, I would recommend the story. I also appreciate this series having an Ainu main character, since not enough people know that Japanese indigenous peoples exist. But hey, cultural genocide, am I right? What are you gonna do about it? Where the fuck was this joke going? Please have an abbreviated title, please have an abbreviated title, please have an abbreviated title. Shit! Kimi to boku no saigo no senjo bo. Okay, I'm just telling jokes at this point. Okay, Our Last Crusade or The Rise of a New World. A magical action romance based on a light novel. This is very much a Romeo and Juliet love story, with our two leads being martial leaders on opposing sides of a war, but through fate and anime clumsiness, they fall in love. The first chapter of the manga adaptation shows promise. There's some neat magical action and cool neo-fantasy visual designs, but the rest of the first volume mostly devolves into a generic shonen romance with little plot progression. The first chapter did a fine job establishing the world, but then the story starts info-dumping needless exposition as light novels do, and the world suddenly becomes a lot less interesting. The show will probably build a bit of an audience within the light novel fanbase, but to general fans, it'll probably be panned and forgotten. The Journey of Elena, based on an episodic fantasy light novel, and from what I've read from the manga adaptation, it's alright. There's obviously some arcs that are better than others, as what happens with all episodic stories, but with the Journey of Elena, most of the arcs are unremarkable. The thing is, there isn't much reason to care for these stories. The side characters who are supposed to be the driving forces in the conflict feel underdeveloped, and the conflicts feel minute, aside from 1 or 2 chapters. It definitely isn't a bad series. I think it'll build a small fan base, but it isn't my cup of tea. Inuyasha 2 Electric Boogaloo. Another series that scarred me as a kid. I mean, look at it. She's naked. While I haven't finished the original series yet, I still recognize its influence on manga and anime, especially here in the West, where it was one of the first series to captivate a Western audience. I honestly hope the show does well. Unfortunately, it seems that the series won't be as popular as I hope though, since the younger generation of anime fans won't be as familiar to its predecessor and they might be intimidated by its length. And honestly, fuck these kids for thinking that. Inuyasha was an important series and without it you white kids won't be able to enjoy your Boku no Hero, your volleyball animes, and your One Punch mains. Read the classics, you ungrateful little pieces of shit. Adachi to Shinamura. A high school girl's love story. But does it do anything special to set it apart? Nope. So there are 2 manga adaptations of the novel this show is based on, and I took it upon myself to preview both comics. And they're both pretty generic. There's definitely a fan base for this series, with the growing popularity of shoujo-ai, but the genre has saturated the market to the point where this series doesn't really stand out. In manga, that is. In anime, there isn't a whole lot of girls' love right now, so this show probably will carve out a nice little niche for itself. IWGP, the International Wrestling Grand Prix Championship. Oh wait. Ikebukuro Westgate Park. So an interesting point to note is that the series is an adaptation of a series of novels that have been adapted as a TV drama as well as multiple manga tie-ins that differ from the original source material. So the plot is our protagonist Makoto is an acquaintance to a local gang leader and he finds himself diving deeper into an escalating gang war. I'm currently having a 50-50 feeling whether this will be good or not, since I find these types of stories tend to be hit or miss in anime. And even if it turns out to be good, this genre tends to be overlooked by the anime community. Also, since this is an adaptation of a series from the 2000s, the anime might face similar issues to Parasite in adapting the characters and setting in present time. Moriarty the Patriot. This is actually an interesting series. It's a reimagining of Sherlock Holmes' antagonist James Moriarty, where he is adapted as 3 brothers who commit murders as an act of vigilantism. From what I've read so far, this series episodically showcases different murders committed by our main cast of anime hunks as they conspire against the corrupt upper class. It's entertaining to see this charming cast of characters pull off different capers, which makes for a fun mystery thriller, and I'm interested in seeing how well the anime will handle this story. Akudama Drive, a co-production of Studio Pierrot and video game studio 2Kyo Games, and directed by the guy who wrote Danganronpa. This doesn't sound promising. I should mention I don't like Danganronpa with all their purple blood and post-apocalyptic bullshit, so I doubt this will be well written in any capacity. They very much seem to be going for this style over substance direction with video game stylings, but it still looks real dumb. I mean, the creators took a page from Goblin Slayer's handbook on naming characters, and we all know how I feel about that show. Perhaps I'm being speculative on a show that hasn't aired yet, but video game adaptations in of itself don't sound promising. I'm standing on 1,000,000 lives. Fuck, this got adapted? Okay, so based on that title, you'd think that this would be a real edgy and violent show. Something bloody and badass. But honestly, I don't think this series knows what it's trying to be. Like, on one hand, there's a lot of gruesome deaths and a bit of gore, but on the other hand, the protagonist is given the farming class? And now look, he's breaking girls' cell phones in the girls' washroom, dub TF? And what the fuck indeed, cause what the fuck is happening? And why should I care? None of the characters feel original or fleshed out, and the events in the first volume feel repetitive with no end in sight. To put it lightly, I don't have high hopes for the show. Is the Order a Rabbit? 2nd season. Not my cup of coffee. Green tea. Fuck. Okay, we're reaching the bottom of the barrel here, so I'm just gonna breeze through all these now. Love Live? I'm sorry, but did you have Kenny Omega advertise your mobile game? I didn't think so. And speaking of bandery, this show has raised a soul in performance opening, Assault Lily Bouquet, set in a sci-fi apocalypse with weaponry that can only be operated by teenage girls. Well, this ain't Evangelion, so I don't care. A Shoto reincarnation isekai? Nope. Kuma Squared Bear? The manga wasn't even funny. Sports climbing girls? Yes please. Maojo de Oyasumi? Why does this manga have 10 plus volumes? Hypnosis Mike? Sounds like a bad doujin title. Dragon Quest? Only Dragon Quest I care about is 3, Warlords of Sigurros. It's about planes, I guess. Ochikobere Fruit Tart. 4 Coma is never funny. Strike Witches, Road to Berlin. I never knew this franchise existed, but unless these girls drinking gas, then I'm not interested. A video game adaptation? Nope. And Osomatsu-san. The only thing this show's good for is incestuous yaoi doujin. Okay, I know I said I was gonna breeze through most of these unpopular shows, but I noticed a special little gem that I need to address. Talentless Nana. Hate to spoil what happens in the first chapter, but this needs addressing. So if you actually want to watch this shit blind as it was intended to be watched, then skip ahead. So the first chapter presents this series as a typical superhuman high school with an underdog protagonist. He becomes interested in the cute new exchange student, and our protagonist is inspired to become stronger by her. Then 80 pages into the first chapter, the girl kills the dude because this isn't an underdog shonen series. No, it's a stupid thriller about this girl killing this entire classroom. Remember, it took 80 pages for this plot twist to reveal, so everything presented before then is irrelevant. And the anime trailer presents this show as a typical supernatural high school story just so this story can subvert the audience's expectations, which I fucking hate. And after this kid is fucking murdered, like, no one becomes suspicious about his disappearance. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, who fucking cares about this series, and it will probably be left unwatched. Moving on to the hentai, OVAs. We got an Hxero OVA, alright. A visual novel adaptation by Poro, so it's probably gonna suck. This one looks like an NTR, this one looks like a blackmail, so nope. And an One X Shota, so...
FBI, open up!
Moving on to films, we have Demon Slayer movie, Fei-Gyo movie, Data Bullet movie. And moving on to non-tie-in movies, we got Josei the Tiger and the Fish, what seems like a promising movie from Studio Bones. Voice acting in the trailer sounds great, and the main theme is performed by Eve, and I love his stuff, so let's hope this is good. Burn the Witch, based on a work by Kubo Tite. Now, I'm no fan of Bleach, but the monster designs in this look real neat, and I'd be interested in seeing how these things are animated. Though I am still a bit wary since it's animated by Studio Colorido, who haven't animated anything I would call spectacular. Kimi wa Kanata. This might be a dark horse of the season since little has been released about this film, with its creator Yoshinobu Sena mostly working on short films, and its studio Digital Network Animation mostly working on in-betweening and other small animation credits. So I don't expect much, but I always love to be proved wrong. Majo Minarai wo Sagashite. Wait a minute, it's a Doraemon movie? Black magic. 1, 2, 3.